ago, Florida education leaders announced that public schools in the state wouldn't participate in a federal youth survey.
Yeah, here's why. State leaders said the questions were inflammatory and sexualized. Now, ABC 27 investigative reporter Katie LaGrone has obtained a copy of the new survey Florida made to replace it. Tonight, she's revealing what it includes, what it doesn't, and why some who helped develop it are raising concerns.
Guns, gender identity, drugs, sex. These are among the hot-button politically charged topics in Florida you largely won't see on the state's new voluntary health survey for teens.
Instead, they asked questions that had to do with character and had to do with decision making.
Christy DiVagelli is a Lee County parent and parents' rights advocate.
I didn't see my name, Christy DiVagelli.
She's also among 14 people chosen to be part of a state work group created to help develop Florida's new youth survey.
I'm not really that sure if I want you guys asking my kid questions about anything that has to do with sexual health.
Created earlier this year, the survey replaces the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, a voluntary student questionnaire long used to chart and compare risky behaviors among U.S. teens. In 2021, for example, results from the survey revealed teen girls in the U.S. are experiencing record high levels of violence, poor mental health, and suicide risk. But last year, Florida's education boss deemed the federal survey inflammatory and sexualized, and all but ordered Florida school districts to stop using it.
There were questions about sexual orientation. There were questions about sexual promiscuity. I mean, there were all sorts of questions that, in my opinion, as a parent, are best left for parents to have those conversations with their kids.
So with the help of researchers from USF, the state put together its own. We obtained a copy. In it, 23 topics, 223 questions. Nearly 3/4 of them focused on the state's new resiliency standards, which is part of required instruction in Florida. Empathy, perseverance, grit, gratitude, even citizenship, just to name a few. But when it comes to the riskiest behavior among teens, Florida's survey doesn't go very far. Just 3 questions address sexual behavior and focus on abstinence, while no questions touch on hard drug use, sexual violence, or campus violence. Compare that to the CDC's 87-question survey, where more than half of questions focus on teen drug use, sex, and other potentially violent behaviors.
I don't know if it's surprising. It's definitely disappointing.
Caitlin Klibben is with Disability Rights Florida and also part of the state survey work group. She tells us members had little input and didn't see the questions until shortly before the state distributed the survey to select high schools.
It felt like many decisions were made by some other entity outside of the work group.
In this letter to the Florida Department of Education, she raises her concerns, stating the process felt very rushed, while calling out teens who aren't even represented and topics completely eliminated, adding there's too much focus on resiliency standards as opposed to actual youth behavior.
Researchers looking to see if initiatives regarding teen dating violence are not going to have useful information out of Florida.
Details about how the state created this student survey aren't completely clear. Despite multiple records requests by us and our attorneys, Florida's Education Department has yet to provide us with all the documents related to the survey's creation and its distribution. But in this January PowerPoint presented to workgroup members, it's clear the state's intent is surveying students on resiliency, not risky behavior.
It looks to me like they've taken the CDC measure and whittled or changed to fit the context of what the Florida political structure wants.
Dr. Sandra Chafulias is a professor in educational psychology for the NEAG School of Education at the University of Connecticut. She's not involved in Florida Survey or the CDC's, but she spent her career studying and creating youth assessments. We asked her to review Florida's new survey for its strengths and weaknesses.
It doesn't allow us now to do this national comparison, so we're going to lose the ability in many ways to track how Florida is doing in comparison to other states, which is an important indicator of the health of the citizens of your state. On the other hand, you're going to have a lot of information about this space of resilience, education, character.
Traits that are no doubt important to how kids are developing, but some fear aren't enough to help those who may be struggling with something more.
Asking whether a student knows about abstinence is different than asking whether they practice abstinence. It's less meaningful and less useful.
This survey is voluntary. Parents can opt their kids out of taking it. We do know it has been distributed to select high schools in select districts, but the state has yet to tell us which ones. We do know, however, results are supposed to be published sometime this summer. I'm Katie LaGrone reporting.